What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy and welcome to another FPL video. Today we're talking wildcards, not a general wildcard video, just one based on your questions from Twitter going into Game Week 5. So looking at the key things like Kane versus Salah, Mane, Hazard and David Silva, Spurs midfielders, things like that. So I've gone through all your questions, answered them in this video. Not clickbait, I've not clicked the wildcard button myself, so if you're expecting to see my team in this video, I'm afraid you're not going to see that. If I do click the button, which I am still thinking about, you'll be sure to find another video on that. Otherwise, let's just jump straight into your questions. So Salah or Kane got asked quite a lot, and I suppose you've also got to look at, even if you don't go with Kane, are you still going to go with Salah and vice versa? Because some people are looking at going with neither of these two players. So I'm going to take a look at the fixtures, stats and the general eye test for these two. So stats wise, they're not too far off each other in terms of goals and assists. Kane's just one behind currently. But when you look at the actual underlying statistics for them, Salah is shooting nearly twice as much, at least in the opening 4 games. Obviously, we've only got a small sample size to go on, but these are the stats we got for this season so far. So that's what we're going to take a look at. Shots from the box, very similar. All of Kane's shots have come in the box, whereas not all of Salah's have, but obviously he's taking more. And chances created much higher for Salah, more than doubling the amount. And his shots on target, same thing there. So if you look at that, you'd say that going forward, Kane may keep up the 2 goals, 1 assist in every 4, but you'd expect Salah to start scoring some more. You'd expect some big hauls around the corner, maybe a brace, an assist or hat-trick or whatever might it be. But Salah is definitely performing very, very well so far stats-wise. And then when you look at the eye test for them, it kind of matches up as well. I think Salah's got into good positions like last season. There's been a couple of big chances that he's missed. The one that springs to mind is against Leicester. On another day, he easily puts that away. We've just seen him for country Egypt score 2 goals and got 2 assists, I think, although he did miss 2 penalties. But we shouldn't have to worry about that as FPL manager because I don't think he's going to be on them. As a general rule, I think statistics-wise, Salah looks really great. Eye test, I think he looks okay. Some people saying he looks maybe off the ball or a little bit off the pace, but I'm not so sure that's right. And Liverpool are going to create chances. And then Kane on the eye test, I'd say the opposite. He does look a bit off the pace. And some people are saying he has done ever since that ankle injury, which could be true. For the World Cup, he did score a lot of goals, but I don't think he looked great from open play. Obviously, got a lot from corners and penalties and things like that. So Kane it doesn't look like he's got the instincts at the moment to do enough that we need for that price. So take the England game that's just happened against Spain, for example. There was a chance he had in the box. I think it was in the second half. Ball started coming to him, and I think Kane in seasons gone past would have gone to that ball, got to it quickly, got the shot off, and maybe not scored, but at least had a good chance. Whereas last night he hesitated a bit, waited for the ball to come to him, and just got tackled. And it may only seem like a minor thing, but that seems to be happening quite a bit in his play. And with Lucas Moura playing further up front, kind of being the highest player for Spurs, Kane's almost dropping a bit deeper to then play him in, which he's not really been too used to. And he's got a pretty good pass on him. The chances created are not that high. He didn't do well last season for assists either. So I'm sure he's probably not quite happy with the way Spurs are playing right now. And perhaps with some back that might change. Perhaps he'll come in for Moura. We'll have to see what happens there. But eye test wise, I think Salah's looking a bit better than Kane. Kane looks off the boil, and stats wise as well. But fixtures are good for Kane. So you've got Brighton, Huddersfield and Cardiff in the next 3. 2 of them away. I'm not sure that's the biggest deal. You'd expect those 2 teams to try and defend, but I think Spurs would have enough about them to overcome that and score plenty of goals. Liverpool not so good on the fixture front wise. Southampton probably going to captain Salah if you own him in that one, but the other 3 not great. But he did do pretty well against those sides last year. I think Chelsea was the only one he maybe didn't do as well against, but scored against Spurs and Man City. So I'm not writing off Salah just yet. If it's one or the other, I think it's got to be Salah. I think there's other options up front you could go for. Aguero, Mitrovic doing really well, Zaha if he's not injured, and even Wilson and players like that. In midfield, yes, there's still lots of options, but I think Salah deserves a place in our sides personally for 13, even though he's 13 million. I think he's got the stats to back it up. The Southampton game's a good captainable fixture. Fair enough, if you want a wild card and go without him, then bring him back in. That could be a good option. Go for the likes of David Silva and Hazard, who got really good fixtures and are in pretty good form stats-wise especially. So you could do that and then bring him back in. It does mean extra transfers down the line, which is something I don't particularly like, but I can see why people are doing it. So I think Salah's got everything apart from the fixtures. Kane's the opposite. He's kind of got the fixtures but not the stats and the eye test. So for me, if it's Kane or Salah, do I think you should go with or without Salah on wildcard? If I was wildcarding, I would have him in, but I like the punt that people are making to not go with him. So Mane or Hazard got asked quite a lot as a question, but I also think you've got to bring David Silva in, who's slightly cheaper, yes, but I think he's in the same kind of bracket as them. He's in the top 6 midfield, a very good option, good fixtures coming up as well. So looking at their underlying statistics, shots are very, very similar. 10 for Mane, 10 for Hazard, and then 8 for David Silva. Remembering that Hazard has played a few less minutes, didn't play too much in the opening 2 games. Obviously, Mane's played every minute so far. Mane getting all his shots off in the box. Hazard not so much, only 4 so far. And I think when you watch him play from the eye test, I do kind of have that kind of feeling that when he plays, he just doesn't have that killer instinct that he wants to go for goal necessarily. He wants to set up his teammates possibly more. And that's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to being a football player. He's very, very good. And I think he will get lots of chances created, lots of assist potential. But as an FPL manager, someone when you're paying £10.7 million, you want him to have that eye for goal as well. And as obviously he can do well. He's done well for Belgium in the international break. We saw him get his goal against Bournemouth as well. So obviously he can score. We're not saying he can, but I think he could get more. And it's frustrating to watch him when he does that. He gets into a good position, and rather than shoot, he maybe takes an extra touch and goes for the pass, or just plays the pass in as it goes. So I think he's got the quality to get more goals. I just don't know if he's got the mental attitude to do that. He possibly wants to set up his teammates. Again, not a bad thing, but from an FPL point of view, it could be. And David Silva, 6 shots in the box, which is quite nice. Shots on target again, David Silva and Hazard quite low, whereas Mane's doing pretty well. And chances created, David Silva the highest there. So I think what's interesting about this is people probably aren't looking at David Silva too much. They're looking, as the question was posed to me, Mane or Hazard. David Silva didn't really come into the equation there, whereas his shots are pretty good compared to the other two. He's 1.5 or 2.2 million less than the other 2 players, and he's creating lots of chances. And when you look at the fixtures, Man City got Fulham and Brighton at home in the next 2, and next 3, and then Cardiff away as well, and Burnley at home if you look at the kind of next 5 fixtures. So the fixtures are very good, and I think while De Bruyne's out, David Silva is going to be a key part of their team. He's going to play all those games, you'd imagine. Potentially around Champions League we could see some rotation, but for 8.5 million, I think I'd be looking to try and get him into a wild card. I think there's potential he could outscore Hazard over those 5 fixtures if they both play all the minutes. Obviously, one key thing that Hazard has for him is penalties, which we probably big up a little bit too much sometimes, but it's definitely a key asset to him. You're not getting him just for his goals and his assists, you're also getting the fact that he gets penalties too, and he's going to be the main man in that Chelsea team. And we could potentially see Sarri move to him up front with Willian and Pedro flanking either side rather than having Morata. He could play in that kind of role under Sarri. We don't know yet. We don't know if he wants to play that position. He may prefer to be out wide as normal and then cut inside, but that's something that could happen. So stats-wise, Mane's done pretty well, but his fixtures, like we just talked about with Salah, are not great. And I think potentially, 4 goals with only 6 shots on target, I think he's probably going to regress a little bit over these fixtures and not score as well as he has done in the opening 4. So if it was Mane or Hazard right now, I think I'd look at getting Hazard in. If it was a choice between one of these 3, I'd seriously look at David Silva for the price saving to try and fit the likes of 3 premium defenders and Salah in your team. But ultimately, if I had to pick one going forward, price was no issue. I probably would go with Hazard. I think the fixtures are pretty good. Liverpool, Man United are the stands out, but they're at home, and we've seen Hazard do or cause trouble against Man United before, so not necessarily one that he'll come away with no points in. But all really good options. I think Mane will regress a little bit, and if you're just bringing him in now at 10 million, I think that's quite expensive. David Silva, I think, is under the radar a bit, and Hazard definitely a good option. So a few different questions about Spurs midfielders came to me. One was whether we should jump on the Moura bandwagon, and the other one was whether you should get rid of Eriksen. I thought while we're looking at those 2, we should look at Ali as well. But fixtures-wise, don't want to spend too long because I've already spoke about them with Kane. But Brighton, Huddersfield and Cardiff in the next 4, and then West Ham away, the way they're playing at the moment, that's a good fixture too. So I'd say 4 of the next 5 are pretty good for Spurs. So I can see why people are looking at bringing in a midfielder. Obviously, we've just spoken about Mane, David Silva and Hazard, so it's getting harder to fit all these premium options in. Now, if you look at the underlying statistics, you could say that Lucas Moura has been a little bit lucky, or if he's not been lucky, that he's probably not going to keep that on unless he can up his shot amount. So he's had 6 shots, but only 3 on target, and he's scored 3 goals. So he's not going to keep up that record. He can't score from every shot on target. No player does that. So of course he could keep playing and maybe up his shot volume, in which case the goals could continue coming. But if he's going to keep performing like that, I would say he's probably going to regress a little. And you've got the fact that Son is going to be back from the Asia Games as well. He's now going to be in contention. We could see them shift to play him instead, and maybe put Ali right behind Kane and move Kane further forward, because like we said earlier, Moura tends to be playing as the furthest man forward at the moment for Spurs. So we could see him drop out, and I definitely expect rotation there. So for me, at 7.3 million, I think Moura was a really good option for the first 4 fixtures. Fair play if you bought him in, but I would probably be looking to avoid right now. I think interestingly is Eriksen, 8 chances created as we always expect from him, and 13 shots as well is pretty high. I must admit, from the eye test, I didn't think he'd be doing that well, but the stats kind of back up that he's been doing okay. But only 4 shots in the box, and most of his shots are from long range. And we know that he's lost a few set pieces to Kieran Trippier as well. Obviously, Trippier might not play every game because of full-back rotation at Spurs, but when he does, he is taking set pieces in some corners as well off of Eriksen. So that kind of leaves me with Ali, and I think Ali is the one I like the most out of all the Spurs players, even when you include Harry Kane, because I just think Harry Kane's a little bit expensive. 9 shots, all in the box. He's definitely getting in there, in behind Kane, or ahead of Kane, as it were. And I think if there is that formation shift so that Moura is taken out and Son plays more of a wide position, Kane's able to get up and Ali's right in behind him. Ali's going to continue to make those runs in the box and play as that second striker. 6 shots on target, only 2 chances created, so probably not going to get too many assists from Ali on current form, but I think the goals are there. So if you want to go for a bit of a punt, you don't fancy maybe Mane, Hazard or Silva, or you want to get one of those plus a Spurs mid because of their fixtures, I think now is the time to punt on someone like Hazard. The fixtures are there. His price is okay. It's kind of cheaper than Mane and Hazard, a little bit more than David Silva. So there's that aspect too. Spurs are always going to do well. I know they didn't beat Watford recently, but Watford have started pretty well. I think the teams they got coming up, they're going to do much better against. So if you want a little bit of a punt, I think you could go with Ali. I think Lucas Moura, like I say, is a little bit of a risk now. And Eriksen, I just think once he's lost those set pieces, it becomes a little bit less of a want for me, and I'd want to see more shots in the box from him, and you can get Ali for a little bit cheaper, so Ali's my pick of this bunch. So we've done the kind of really big key questions that people ask. These are just some other ones that were asked too, which I want to try and fly through a bit quicker so this video isn't ridiculously long. So starting with Arsenal, who should you get from them? So my too long didn't read short answer is I don't think I would get anyone from Arsenal on a wild card right now. Their fixtures are pretty good. Newcastle away, Everton at home, Watford at home and Fulham away. So I'd expect to see some goals there. If you look at the defence, Czech looks rusty, I would say. He doesn't look like he fits in with this side. They're trying to play out from the back. He's not a keeper for that. I don't think it'd be too long till Leno comes in. It's actually a bit weird why he's not already played, so maybe there's something behind the scenes there. So I wouldn't go for any players defensively. I think they're letting in too many goals. You could look at Monreal, bit of goal threat, but I just think they're not going to get the clean sheets necessarily, which is a problem for me. And then Mkhitaryan's obviously been benched. I really like Ramsey if he keeps his place in the side. So I want to see a few more weeks to see if he gets rotated out. Obviously a bit of an injury concern with him. He does have a tendency to get injured. But when he plays, he did really well last year. So I'd like to look at him. Aubameyang I just think is too expensive. When you've got the likes of Aguero, it's very hard to fit those two up front. And then Lacazette, yes, I think if he's going to play, he's a really good price. And he's going to do well, especially if him and Aubameyang play together. But the problem is we don't know if he's going to play again. Like Ramsey, I'd want to see a few more games before we jump into that one. And then Mkhitaryan, Zaha and Walcott. So if you're like me, you've got these three. You've still not hit the wild card. I'm generally still looking at it as an option. Mkhitaryan I think is going to have to go because I don't know if he's going to play. Although in the next game he definitely could. Obviously, I don't think Emery quite knows his full-strength team yet in his first 11. So Mkhitaryan could play. So I'm not hugely desperate to get rid of him. But he is just one concern in my team who I might need to get rid of. Zaha, we still have no news on. But if he's back, his fixtures are good and he scored 2 and 3 so far. I think he's key to that Palace team, so he's definitely going to play. So I want to keep Zaha if he's fit. And then Walcott's planning, or at least he's hoping to make a return in the game. In Gameweek 5. So if you've got these three and they're all suddenly fit, I think it's okay not to wildcard. If I get 2 or even 3 of them, I think they're not going to play in the next game week, I'm probably going to hit the button myself, even though I missed out on some price rises. I don't really care about that. I want to sort out the problems once I have more info. Avoid teams with Europe, I would say generally no. Yes, you're going to get a bit more rotation, but I don't think as a general rule, most players in the top 6, you're going to miss out on kind of 2 or 3 games in a short space of time. It's probably going to be 1 at the most. So I wouldn't avoid them. They're in those top 16s because they tend to get points. There's a few good prices in there as well. So I wouldn't completely avoid that. Is Lukaku worth it? His stats are up there, kind of matching Kane right now. So he looks good, and I think with Watford, Wolves, West Ham, Newcastle, they're pretty good fixtures, although we've seen Watford doing really well. Newcastle parked the bus pretty good, and Wolves haven't conceded too many chances either. But the Wolves and Newcastle games are at home. So Is he worth it again? It depends. If you're matching him up against Aguero, you're probably just going to go with Aguero right now with his fixtures and captain material. But Lukaku could be a nice punt. I think you're a braver man than me if you go with Lukaku. Even I don't want to get him in my side right now because I just feel like I want Salah, I want Aguero, and it's hard to fit him in with the likes of Silva, Hazard and Mane. If you want a bit of a punt who is fairly low owned for a Man United player like him, 11 million, he could do the business over those 4 fixtures and then maybe switch him out to someone else after that. That's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Tried to answer the main key questions that I could. Obviously threw on some at the end. I'm sure there's loads more questions that you have. So if you do, leave a comment in the video below and I'll try and get back to as many as I can. And I've noticed on a lot of the videos as well that a lot of the community get back to other people's questions, which is really great to see. So keep it up. Have a look below and see if there's anything that you can answer. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Always appreciate it. And subscribe if you're new around here. That'll let you know when the next video is going up and when my next live stream will be, which will be Thursday at 9:30 PM UK time this week. Talking all your questions going into Game Week 5. Otherwise, I'm going to leave this video there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers all.